The foundation of lasting attraction lies in understanding a fundamental truth. Women are not designed to simply receive love passively. They crave the thrill of pursuit. This isn't about games or manipulation, but rather an innate emotional wiring. When a man does all the chasing, showering her with constant attention and validation, the relationship may appear stable on the surface. She may smile, return affection, and even say the words, "I love you," but beneath the surface, something vital is missing. Without the tension of uncertainty, without the challenge of earning his presence, her emotional engagement quietly fades. This dynamic isn't arbitrary. It's rooted in biology and psychology. Feminine energy thrives on emotional friction, the push and pull of desire, the fear of losing what isn't guaranteed. A woman's deepest satisfaction comes not from simply having a man, but from the effort she invests to keep him. When everything is handed to her without resistance, without effort, her subconscious interprets it as a lack of value. Why? Because what comes too easily is rarely treasured. This explains why relationships often lose their spark once the initial chase ends. In the beginning, when a man is slightly elusive, when his attention is something she must earn, her emotions run high. She wonders about him, chases his approval, and feels a rush when she receives it. But the moment she feels she has him completely, the moment he becomes predictable, overly available, or emotionally dependent, her attraction wanes. It's not cruelty. It's instinct. The key isn't to withdraw affection entirely, but to maintain a sense of self-possession. A man who remains centered in his purpose, who doesn't sacrifice his identity for her approval, keeps her intrigued. She doesn't want a man who orbits her world. She wants one whose world is compelling enough for her to want to join. When she has to work for his attention, when she feels she hasn't fully won him, that's when her desire burns brightest. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being a man who is genuinely hard to forget. Most men are conditioned to believe that love is measured by how much they sacrifice for a woman. Constant texts, undivided attention, relentless reassurance. They think if they just give enough, she feels secure and never leave. But this approach backfires every time. Why? Because overgiving doesn't inspire love? It breeds complacency. When a man makes a woman his sole focus, he unknowingly strips away the very qualities that made him desirable in the first place. His independence, his mystery, his sense of purpose beyond her. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man who's always available. She falls for the man who's occupied with something greater. The moment he shifts his energy from his mission to chasing her approval, he loses his edge. She may enjoy the attention initially, but eventually she grows bored. Not because she's ungrateful, but because her attraction is tied to respect. And respect fades when a man prioritizes her over his own growth. This isn't about withholding affection, it's about balance. A man who texts her good morning every single day becomes predictable. But the man who occasionally disappears into his work, who responds when it suits him, who lets her wonder, he keeps her emotionally engaged. She starts reaching out first, investing more, chasing the moments when he does give her attention. Why? Because his energy signals value? He's not desperate for her. He's choosing her. The trap of overgiving also creates an unhealthy power dynamic. When a man is always the one initiating, reassuring, and proving himself, she subconsciously loses attraction. She doesn't want to lead the relationship, she wants to be led. A man who overfunctions emotionally forces her into a masculine role, which drains the passion from the connection. The solution? Pull back. Let her come to you. Match her effort, never exceed it. The more you let her invest, the more she value what she's earning, not just taking for granted. The most powerful tool in attraction isn't pursuit, it's withdrawal. Think back to when she seemed most captivated by you. Chances are it wasn't when you were constantly available, but when you were focused on your own world. There's a magnetic pull in a man who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't anxiously await her texts, who remains unshaken by her moods. This quiet confidence creates tension, not the toxic kind, but the electric charge that keeps her intrigued. When you pull back just enough to make her wonder, you trigger something primal in her psyche. Suddenly, she's the one questioning where she stands. She starts replaying your interactions, analyzing your mixed signals, craving the validation you're no longer freely giving. This isn't manipulation, it's human nature. People want what they can't fully have. The moment she senses you're not desperate for her approval, that you have options and a life beyond her, her perception of your value skyrockets, but withdrawal must be strategic. Disappearing entirely breeds confusion, not attraction. The key is to remain present but detached, warm when engaged, but perfectly content in silence. Reply to her messages, but on your schedule. Make plans, but keep some mystery in your schedule. Let her see you're a man who chooses when to give his attention, not one who hands it over indiscriminately. This approach works because it mirrors how masculine energy naturally operates, focused on purpose first, relationship second. A woman doesn't truly want a man who's always there. She wants one who's worth waiting for. When she feels she has to earn your presence, she fights to keep it. And that's where a real connection begins, not in the security of constant contact, but in the thrilling uncertainty of a man who can walk away at any moment, but chooses to stay. The most intoxicating relationships thrive on an undercurrent of tension, not conflict, but the electric charge between certainty and mystery. This delicate balance keeps passion alive long after the initial spark fades. A woman doesn't want complete security any more than she wants constant chaos. She craves a sweet spot where she feels confident in your interest but never entirely sure of your devotion. This is the dance of dynamic tension, where every interaction carries weight because nothing is taken for granted. The secret lies in becoming a man who gives affection freely but never indiscriminately. When you're consistently warm yet slightly unpredictable, affectionate one moment, focused on your purpose the next, you create emotional momentum. She finds herself leaning in, chasing those moments when your full attention is hers. This isn't about playing hot and cold. It's about maintaining enough personal depth that she can never quite map your emotional landscape. The man who remains. An intriguing mystery, even in intimacy, becomes impossible to take for granted. Physical presence amplifies this effect. When you're together, be fully engaged, present in touch, eye contact, conversation. But when apart, resist the urge to maintain constant digital connection. Let absence amplify your value. The space between meetings becomes fertile ground for her imagination, where anticipation builds and small gestures gain significance. A text after days of silence carries more weight than dozens of predictable good morning messages. This dynamic mirrors life's most compelling experiences we savor the concert more when we've awaited it, appreciate the vacation more after months of planning. By allowing her to experience the full cycle of missing you, wondering about you, and then reconnecting, you transform ordinary affection into something extraordinary. The relationship stops being a given and becomes a choice one. She's compelled to keep making. The highest form of masculine power isn't dominance or control, it's unshakable self-possession. A man who stands firmly in his own worth doesn't need to chase validation. He becomes the gravitational force that pulls others into his orbit. This is the essence of true confidence, not the loud boasting of insecurity, but the quiet assurance of a man who knows his value isn't negotiable. When you reach this state, something remarkable happens. Women don't just notice you, they begin qualifying themselves to you. This shift changes everything. Instead of anxiously monitoring her texts, you're focused on building a life so compelling that her absence wouldn't break your stride. Instead of molding yourself to fit her expectations, you hold boundaries with calm indifference. This isn't aloofness, it's the recognition that your time, attention, and affection are privileges to be earned, not obligations to be dispensed. The paradox? The less you need her approval, the more she worked to earn yours. Women test what they're drawn to, and the man who remains unmoved by these tests becomes irresistible. When she throws emotional challenges your way, meeting them with amused detachment rather than desperate reaction demonstrates a strength she can't help but respect. Your consistency becomes your power, not the rigid consistency of predictable behavior, but the unbreakable consistency of your self-worth. Ultimately, this creates the healthiest dynamic possible, two complete individuals choosing each other daily, not out of need, but from genuine desire. She stays not because she's trapped by your neediness, but because she's continually inspired by the man you are, a man who would be perfectly fine without her, yet chooses to include her in his extraordinary life. That's when chasing stops and real love begins.